So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Roswell in the 21st century is a detailed re-examination of the Roswell UFO crash case. I have studied the evidence for more than 30 years, and I now put that evidence under a microscope in a cold case examination of the facts. These facts might not please everyone. They are based on my comprehensive investigation that took years to complete, but they do lead to the conclusion that whatever fell was not built on Earth. The best of Project Blue Book is based on the 22-year-long investigation conducted by the Air Force. But the book goes far beyond that, bringing in evidence that was uncovered long after Project Blue Book was ordered terminated. Using facts that were unavailable to the Air Force investigators, I was able to prove that the Air Force manipulated the data and drew unrealistic conclusions about the UFO sightings reported to them. My different perspective shows there was more to Project Blue Book than even the Air Force knew. Both books are available at Amazon.com.
Join Patty Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patty knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting pattyconklin.com, PATTICONKLIN. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patty through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit pattyconklin.com today or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's pattyconklin.com or call 404-474-0086.
Hi, everyone. This is Patty Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for joining me today and my wonderful guest. It's a beautiful day here in Georgia after having such violent storms Easter Sunday evening. It was even strong storms for me, and I love storms, so it's just kind of weird. But we all made it through it, and I'm thankful for that. So thankful that you're here with us. My guest today is Adrienne, and Jean is the developer of the InnerSpeak breakthrough coaching and therapy process, as well as being an author, internet TV show host, world traveler, and financially independent entrepreneur. Her passion is creating quantum change in her own life, and she loves to share that with others, assisting them to do likewise. Her nitty-gritty details are that she has a BA in psychology from Florida State University. She completed the 4-year education for ministry curriculum from the University of the South, and she's published 5 books: Soul Adventures, Reframe, Your World, Conscious Creation and the New Reality, Power Tools, the Ultimate Owner's Manual for Personal Empowerment Realities and Creation, and Reconnecting Soul Guidelines, plus 2 amazing decks of empowerment cards, the InnerSpeak cards. All are available on Amazon, folks. So I've actually got a set of those sitting right here. So get yours. Jean offers coaching and clearing sessions in her office in Tallahassee, Florida, as well as via phone and Zoom. So, Jean, thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
Oh, Patty, I'm so excited. It's been a while since we've talked, and I'm really happy to be here.
It really has been a while. So, how has life been for you in Florida? How is our new reality of COVID-19 and life where we are right now? How are things going?
I have to say that for me, not really much has changed personally. And a part of that, I think, has to do with the fact that I moved from Georgia to Florida almost 3 years ago. And the pace in North Florida is a little bit behind the curve from the rest of the world, So, we're all in our little personal isolation and doing the right thing. But it hasn't been drastic here. So that's a blessing.
That's a blessing, because we were kind of at the epicenter here when things started in Georgia. So it was a little bit different here with things expanding so much. Are you noticing any difference with your clients in terms of fear levels or concern levels, or not? Just still thinking it's a hoax and there's nothing really going on other than hyped up noise.
That's not one I've heard. And so I guess I would have to say that my primary job for the last month has been helping people to stay centered in their heart centers and away from fear as much as possible. And, and people contact me when they're like on a ledge and they need to be talked back into the window.
Right.
So I've done a lot of that over the last month, but I really think that that's key here is for everybody to stay in the present moment, because in the present moment there is no fear. Right.
Absolutely true. So we'll get more into that a little bit, but tell me about you. What took you into psychology and spiritual growth and ministries and all sorts of different things? What took you to where?
It's been a really interesting journey, Patty. I think since the small child, I've been searching for the truth. And I would have to say, if you wanted to put a moniker on me, it would be Truth Seeker. I got kicked out of way too darn many Sunday school classes for asking hard questions. Because I think I knew inside all along that everything I was being told wasn't exactly right. I didn't know that it was wrong or right or whatever, but I just knew that I wasn't getting the whole story. And so I started on this path to find the truth. And it led me through traditional religious pathways up to and including seminary. And everywhere I turned, I kept knowing, no, that's just not quite right. That's just not totally right. And it wasn't until I discovered metaphysics that I actually began to open the door to possibility and look outside the box for the first time. And then I had an enlightenment experience in 2002 that sort of rocked my world. I opened to channel, if you will, which is when I received the InnerSpeak protocol, because I didn't even know what channeling was. I didn't even have enough sense to ask, wait a minute, who's talking to me here? I didn't know that was part of the rules. So there you go.
So talk to me about InnerSpeak. What took place when you had that enlightenment or awareness or that experience?
I actually heard a man's voice in my car, and I almost wrecked my car.
Oh my goodness!
Because I had never heard voices before, and the voice said, "You're done with everything you've done up until this point in your life." And of course, me being me, I started arguing with the voice, and I was like, "Wait a minute! Don't be taking away my livelihood if you don't have something better to replace it with." And then I would silence. And then again, I would hear the voice that tells me the same thing, and then I started receiving downloads in the dream state in the middle of the night. I would see these movies and really what they were, I think, was downloads of sacred geometry information. And you're talking to a woman who couldn't balance her checkbook or make 2 and 2 add up to be 4 twice in a row. So why I was getting mathematical information in the middle of the night, I don't know, but apparently I've done this before. And so at a very esoteric level, InnerSpeak is based on sacred geometry and light language. But at level, it is a protocol of 144 files of information. Each file has 36 pieces of information in it, and these pieces of information are either sentences or words or phrases. And I use kinesiology or muscle testing to access for my clients, to allow their higher self basically to walk through my protocol book and say, okay, well, Patty needs to know this piece of information on this page and this one on this page over here and that one over there. And I basically give that information to the client. And then I ask them to acknowledge that they've heard it. And, and that, at the end of the day, what it does is it creates a healing story. It will tell you where you set up a block for yourself that's holding you back from being all you can be in any area of your life, and exactly what happened to you, when it happened, and then it gives you what you need to clear it. And basically, I don't do any healing work, and I allow the client to do it. I give them the guidance that they need and the information that they need in order to be able to let go back to where they create it. And more often than not, it involves forgiveness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So how long did it take you to get the downloads and to be able to put it in a file format for people to use? I mean, how much of a time period did that take?
Basically 3 months. And it was really sort of interesting. I mean, it started coming in dribs and drabs. Like I was driving down Holcomb Bridge Road in Roswell, and the voice said, pull over into the Shoney's parking lot and get a pencil and a piece of paper because we're going to give you file names. And I'm like, well, luckily I had a pen and a notepad, so that was a good thing. But when it started for real, it took 90 days. And I sat in front of a computer and typed and received, and the tears would just pour from my eyes. I've never felt so loved in my entire life. It was like being in a love bath. Yeah. And I was really actually disappointed when it was all done. And I thought, I'll never feel this again. And it was so amazing. And I don't want it to stop, which is like totally not true because it never went away.
Right. I was going to say it didn't go anywhere.
No.
So InnerSpeak was your first foray into this. So what brought the other books? Give me a minute or so on that before we go to break, because you've really expanded off of that.
I sure have. And the first book was my autobiography. I can't even say it, autobiography. And it was kind of how all this happened. But the second book was the product of what you might call a nervous breakdown. I literally I fell apart in the parking lot of a grocery store. I'd gone on a Sunday afternoon to buy a prime rib roast to cook for Sunday dinner, and couldn't get out of my car. I started crying and I couldn't stop. And it was what it was. But I think in the old days they would have called it a nervous breakdown. And this went on for a long, long time. And every time I would think it was over, another wave of this crying would hit me. And finally, I remembered, oh wow, wait a minute, I've got other help I can call on. And I called out to Saint Germain and I said, send me your violet flame because I'm really in pain here. Help me out.
Right.
And almost immediately, I felt this wash of peace and a realization that I was not sad. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I was afraid. And I was afraid because I didn't know who I was anymore. Right. I had changed so much that I didn't recognize myself. And it was scary.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's talk about that when we come back, because I know a lot of people go through that and experience that. So folks, when we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Jean Adrienne, and I'm so happy you're here. And we'll see you in just a minute.
Are you looking for psychic services that empower as well as provide accurate information? Jenny is a third-generation psychic with extensive esoteric training. A practicing professional intuitive for over 30 years, her accuracy is astounding. While most psychics can read what will happen to you if you don't change directions, Jenny understands the future is subjective. While there is a river of time we all traverse, that river has many waves, eddies, currents, and tributaries from which to choose. With Jenny as your guide, you can explore the many possible outcomes in the river of time and navigate your course to the one of your liking. Take control of your future. Book your life-changing session with Jenny today at www.gen-e.net. That's www.gen-e.net.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Hi, everyone. This is Patty Conklin and Healing Within. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. And I have an awesome guest with me, Jean Adrienne. And you can find Jean at jeanadrienne.com. And we were talking about the fear that you were going into, realizing that you weren't the same person that you had been for most of your life. So talk to me about what that fear felt like and how you moved through it.
Well, it was gut-wrenching. It was all the way down to the marrow of my bones palpable. And I didn't know how to move through it. But I did have the thought sitting there in the parking lot of good old Harry's grocery store that if I'm going through this, I bet I'm not the only one. And I made a commitment to document my process of climbing up out of that hole. And in order to hold myself accountable, I called up the local metaphysical bookstore in Roswell at that time, which was called Synchronicity. And I asked the manager there, I asked her, this was like in March, I think. And I said, so her name was Diane. I said, Diane, what do you have open for a workshop in mid to late May? And so she gave me a Saturday and I said, okay, book me, because I'm going to teach a workshop and it's going to be called Reframe Your World. And she said, okay. And so that way I was put on notice that I had to figure this thing out. And I had a couple months to do it. Put something
together. Yeah.
Yep. And so I began to document my own personal process of figuring out who I really was. And it ended up being a book as well. But at first it was a workshop. So it ended up being my second book. But what I've figured out since then is that this place of fear and not knowing is a place we all go into every time we raise our consciousness to a new plateau.
Yeah.
And even going back into the biblical times, I realized that what it is, it's the wilderness. And, back in the New Testament, when Jesus was baptized, and that voice boomed out, "Behold, this is my beloved Son," etc. The very next sentence in the Bible says, "And he went into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights to be tempted by the adversary." And I realized that that's where I was in that parking lot. I was being tempted by my shadow self to give up, to quit, to not be myself, not stay in integrity, to just go back to that same old, clammy, familiar place where life had been comfortable, but it wasn't comfortable anymore.
Right. So how did you feel about your first presentation?
By the time I got there, basically what I did was I journaled every day, starting the day of the breakdown. And I journaled every day about what I was going through, what I was feeling, what I was seeing, and how I was coping. And so the workshop actually ended up being a compilation of my journal, of the processes that I had gone through myself. And and so it was easy because I'd already lived it.
Because you'd already been there. So, when we look at fear and we get into individual fear and we get into mass consciousness of fear, which I think we're in right now.
Big time.
What's the difference in terms of dealing with it between our individual selves, which taking personal responsibility, and then the mass consciousness of fear? How do we direct those two?
Yeah, so the first one is the individual one, and what I have found to be the easiest way to get out of fear on that one is to sit down and figure out what you really believe, who you really are, and get rid of everything that's not part of your true belief system, so that you can stand in integrity, and then start getting into gratitude, because gratitude will pull me out of fear in a skinny heartbeat. And all I have to do is just be thankful. And some days it's only thankful that I can get out of bed, or that the sun is shining, depending on how far down in that hole I've gone. But there's gratitude is just a beautiful thing, and it will pull you into the present moment and will erase fear. And so I've started now that every night before I go to bed, I do what I call my attitude of gratitude. And I close my journal out each day by writing at least 5 things that I'm grateful for. And then that kind of like clears my head so that I can go to bed in a better space. And so that's the personal answer. But the mass consciousness answer is a little bit more difficult, because I think for folks like you and me, and probably most of the people who are listening to this show, we're empaths. And so we naturally feel it when everybody else is feeling it. And so I have to, really get present and try to figure out, is this mine? Is this somebody else's? And I don't even try to figure it out. I just connect with my higher self, and I invite my higher self to find all of the energy that is not mine and send it back where it came from, along with the appropriate energetic information that the source of that stuff needs, so that they can process their own spiritual lessons. Because I really, truly believe that's all anybody wants from anybody else is information. And, so if we can pass that information back, and then once I've done it for me at the soul level, I do it at the body level, and I connect with my body, and I invite my body to find wherever she's stored anybody's reference points for their own stuff, or their wounds, or their pain, or their fear, and just to lift them up and out, and again, send energetic information to the body of the people. So that they can move through it as well. And I have to do that I got to tell you, many times every day, because I'm like a little energetic sponge, and
Right.
it's the only way I can stay clean.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we raise our consciousness, and we talked about this just a little bit ago, but when we raise our consciousness and we always go into that next fear state of, oh my gosh, now I'm here, and am I capable? Am I doing it? Am I doing it right? I mean, the self-doubts that so many people come up with. In this day that we have today of so many people being out of work, so many people being furloughed, laid off, let go, so on and so forth, and that unknown fear comes into play so heavily for folks. I mean, it's not just about taking them to the next level of understanding. It's about how to help them right now with so much going on in their lives and not knowing how they're going to feed their family or pay the bills or whatever. Is there a different segue that you use for the mass consciousness of helping people with fear, given the totality of what's going on today?
Yeah, and and I don't want to sound cavalier. I do not want to come across sounding cavalier about this, but I think one of the biggest lessons in everything we're going through right now is helping us to get back to the old values that we've kind of maybe tossed aside, and the really and truly remembering what source is. Where does it come from? Because it doesn't come from a job. It doesn't come from a relief check. No, sir. It comes from spirit. And it's a vertical thing. And it's a vibration. It's something that happens inside you. And so if you're vibrating inside to fear, then you're blocking it. But if you're vibrating into the vibration of support and allowing the universe to provide for you, guess what? It will. Maybe not in the way you expect, because you can't control how it's going to happen, but it'll always be the perfect way.
That's the caveat, isn't it? That it's not going to come to you the way you expect it to. Right. That it rarely comes to you in the way that you anticipate. It's always going to be a little bit different in terms of what the expectation is. And I hear what you're saying, and I agree what you're saying, but how do you make that tangible for folks? How does that equate? Because we can look at some of the churches that were open this past Easter, and when most of the country is practicing social distancing, and yet you have folks that were going to church this last weekend and just saying, God's got me covered. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be okay. It seems like the caveat, the falseness in that is that the belief that just because they're in the worship house, that they're not going to get infected with a virus or whatever, that they're safe, and that's delusional. Yeah, but yet they would come back to you and say, "Hey, I'm going on faith here. I'm going on faith that I'll be okay." And so, how do we help people understand that? We need the faith. We want the faith. We want the belief. We want all of that. However, we still have to have some common sense and serenity in here. So let's get into that on the other side, because it is important. And, certainly small business owners who are just saying this is a hoax and we never should have shut down and let's open back up. I mean, where do we find balance in this very chaotic space? So, folks, you're with Patty Conklin and Healing Within, and my guest, Jean Adrienne, and we'll be right back. See you on the other side.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. Audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Hi, everyone. You're with Patty Conklin and Healing Within, and thank you so much for joining us today. My wonderful guest is Jean Adrienne, and we're kind of hitting some of the tough topics of today's world, and hopefully it's a just a small piece of today's world that we're moving through and moving out of. But Jean, we were talking last segment about faith and belief and how much we need it, and yet how much it can be a detractor for those who are possibly, I don't want to say wrong, because I don't believe there's a right or wrong, but people who are interpreting it in a different way. What's your sense on that?
Okay, I'm going to really go out on a limb here.
Okay. Limbs are okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So here's my belief on this. Take what you want and leave the rest. Uh-huh. I believe that protection and safety comes from truth. I think the masters throughout the ages have said things like, you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. And I believe that when you are in alignment with your truth, so if you say you have faith, and you truly do have faith enough to step out of a boat and walk on water, then you can rely on your faith to protect you. But if it's lip service, you better watch out.
Okay.
And Yeah, and that's really kind of the bottom line there, in my opinion, is that we have to be really careful that we are in 100% alignment. Again, it's that vertical alignment. And we've got to really and truly know what we believe at the very core of our being, and not just give lip service to it, or not, because it's really hard. I hear a lot of people say, that they're really strong in their religious faith and this, that, and the other, but out in the next sentence, they'll go slicing and dicing somebody for not doing it the way they do.
Yep.
Well, guess what? That is not being in alignment with that truth.
Right.
And, and I think that when you're out of alignment, it leaves you vulnerable. That's my whole story.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I think that, and I see it certainly in the illness and disease process as people talk about how strong their faith is until something really rattles them, like a disease and strong illness and so forth. And then all of a sudden, their faith is out the window and they're in crisis. But is there a fine line? I'll come from a personal standpoint. I have very strong faith, but I also have common sense.
Yes.
So I have ICU nurses staying in my home, my empty house, and I'm out here at my little cabin. And so, they're self-quarantining away from their families while they work ICU and so forth. I would not go waltzing in my house right now, with the nurses in there. But I would wait until they're done using the house and go in and have a professional cleaning service come in to kind of sterilize the house and so forth. And then I'm more than happy to go back in the house.
For sure.
But I would not just walk in right now. And I can say, well, I have faith, and I really believe that you die when you're meant to die. That there's no going early, there's no going late. It's fortuitous. So whether I walk in the house and something happens, or I get hit by a car, either way, I'm going to go on the day of checkout. But I think that the faith and the common sense also need to come together. It doesn't mean that I'm going to die, but man, I could, just feel miserable for a few weeks and go, gee, you should have listened to yourself and not gone in the house. So how do we help people make that distinction of faith and common sense?
Well, and I think, it's almost impossible to tell somebody that and to have them get it. The best way is to model it, live it, and allow people to observe that, okay, because I, like you, I'm self-quarantined at home, although I am the teacher for my 6-year-old granddaughter. So I leave my house and I go to my daughter's house because she's having to work from home. And I'm a kindergarten teacher from 8 to 5. And then I go straight back home, and I'm not exposing myself to anybody else, nor are they.
Right.
So there's that, but I've got this knowing that I'm not going to get it, whatever it is. And it was really put to the test last week, because I woke up at 4:00 in the morning, Wednesday morning of last week, with the most incredible stomach pain I have had ever. I mean, I was literally doubled over with these stomach cramps, and I'm thinking, what on earth I haven't eaten anything weird, and is this corona? This is not one of the things that they've said.
Right.
And then the next day, Wednesday afternoon, I started having a fever. It wasn't much, and I don't normally, my fever is not usually ever 98.6, it's less. And so when I got up to 99, I was like, oh, that's a high fever for me, and so that was kind of off and on. And then I started having body aches and pains, and I'm thinking, this isn't corona. And I know I came in contact with something somehow, and it was probably like listeria or, something that was on a salad I ate. I don't know. And it went away. But actually, I talked to a good friend today who just got done with the same thing. and I'm in Tallahassee, and she's in Atlanta.
Right,
So,
right.
Apparently, there's a bug going around that's not corona.
There is. I have a friend who's in Tennessee, in Nashville, and she had the same thing, stomach, slight fever, but intense stomach pain. And yeah, it was not corona. It was about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago or so, that she was experiencing that. So yeah, I mean, it's important for people to understand that okay, COVID-19's out there, but so is everything else. I mean, all the other little bugs haven't stopped just because we've got COVID out there. So,
Exactly.
it's important, especially, when I'm working with a client who, has cancer or, muscular dystrophy or, whatever it is. They start feeling sick and their fear just jumps them right into, oh my gosh, I contracted COVID. No, you probably, your stomach's off, your digestive's off, your GI's off, your immune system's down, your adrenals are down, whatever it is. But people jump into that fear space so quickly. And, I talk about fear being forgetting every available resource. And that resource is the belief and faith we have inside of us and the knowing that we all have. So what are some of the attachments that keep us stuck? Why do you feel so many people are attached, and to what? I mean, what do people get attached to?
Well, pretty much everything besides that. And I really do believe that that's one of the lessons that we're being called to look at, and maybe perhaps master or not during this time of this COVID pandemic is attachment, because we get attached to everything. We get attached to getting our hair done. How many of us have gotten attached to getting our hair done and now we can't?
Right.
Or getting our nails done and now we can't. So we're being shown that this attachment business doesn't serve us.
Right.
And we're actually, I think, kind of being shown this lesson in a polite way, because it could be a lot worse.
Right.
Right. But I think one of the biggest ones, and I've observed this because I actually got to stay home this morning. I had to go to my granddaughter's school to pick up her next week's worth of lessons, right? And so I turned the TV on and was watching Good Morning America. And I don't watch TV and I don't watch the news, but I had time on my hands and I was a little bit bored and I was trying to fill that gap up. And I was listening to our president and the governor of New York in a pissing contest about who's right. And I think that one of the things that we get so attached to is being right.
Yes.
True. That doesn't serve us at all. Yeah. It never has. It never will. And I think we're learning that a lot of the things that we thought were right and true right now, we're not. Yeah. And they're not important. And so being right, I think, is one of those things that we're actually getting a major lesson in figuring out what is important. And is it important to be the right one, to win the contest?
Right. Right.
Or is my mother used to always say, I'm sorry.
Is it more valuable to be respectful of the fact that somebody else has a different opinion, versus being right? I mean, it's one of those things of an ego-driven response, right? Of I need to be right about this, and I'm going to be right about this, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to be right about this. And if I'm right, you have to be wrong. And boy, we've seen that so much more prevalent, I think, in the last 20, 30 years, even just as it's increased and increased. So let's kind of wind up as we move into the next part about what we can be doing in life right now. So folks, it's Patty Conklin and Healing Within, and my guest, Jean Adrienne, and we'll be back in just a minute.
watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
What's making?
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
Hey everyone, it's Patty Conklin and Healing Within, and I so appreciate you listening to the show today and my fantastic guest, Jean Adrienne, and you can find Jean at jeanadrienne.com. And Jean, you want to spell that out for us? Because I don't have it pulled up here.
Sure. It's JeAdrienne.com.
That's wonderful. I would have gotten it right.
Yay.
Now I'm going back to our need to be right.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's really true. I mean, it seems like the more insecure people get, the more need to be right becomes. Mm-hmm. And I just see it evolving so much in our world of just this need to be right and this need to have I don't know, to have our egos recognized. We're not, I think, as a population around the world, we're not finding the foundation stability that we thought we had with our world upended. If our personal foundation isn't in place, and we've been using artificial foundations in order to keep us in place, it's really easy to feel like you've been tipped over. So what are some things that people can do to become detached and be the observer at this stage in what's going on?
Well, one of the tools that I rely on the strongest is realizing that everything that I require is inside me. and it's a vibration.
Yeah.
And so anytime I'm feeling unsafe, I ask my higher self to activate safety inside me, and that takes care of that. If I'm feeling disconnected, like right now, where a lot of us are feeling very disconnected,
Yeah.
I ask my higher self to activate connection inside me, because again, it's all just a vibration. And it's just as simple as asking, because when we ask, Spirit's answer is always yes. Always.
Yeah. Well, what do we do? Because, there are people who listen to this show that aren't into vibration, that aren't necessarily into metaphysics. They may be much more left brain linear, not on the spiritual vibrational level. How do we help them understand in their terminology and their languaging?
So I would take it to a place of joy and tell them to find what makes you happy, makes you feel like joy inside. And my mother, God rest her soul, one of her favorite sayings was, Jeannie, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? And, and I was like, huh? Because I didn't get it when I was a kid, but now I do, because I was really hung up on being right and being heard. And so many of us don't feel heard. But if you make that acknowledgement to yourself, if you acknowledge yourself, then if you're looking for somebody outside you to acknowledge you, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, anytime you're looking for anything in the outer world, there's never going to be enough. There's never going to be enough chocolate. There's never going to be enough wine.
What? Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Oh my goodness.
We're always going to be looking for more or better, right? In fact, I've just discovered this chocolate called, it's VOSGES. I don't know how you say it out loud, but it is the best I've ever had.
I think my daughter-in-law would just lose it if there wasn't, her love language is chocolate. And so I bought her, because she eats 3 Cadbury eggs a day.
Whoa.
Every day, and she's done it for years and years and years. So, for her birthday, which was Saturday, I had gotten her 200 Cadbury eggs, and
oh my God,
that'll take her through, somewhat most of the year. And I think my son, finished up the rest. But that's her love language, and she needs her chocolate, and she does her thing. But I think that people in general, in my observation lately, is that they're being torn in so many different ways, because the people who feel that COVID-19 is a hoax aren't necessarily going into their local communities and looking at what's happening. They tend to be more small business owners. They're afraid that their businesses aren't going to open back up, and so therefore they're moving with the rhetoric that it's not real. I've lost a couple of close friends already to COVID. And again, you go when it's time to go, not when you think you should be going. So I can live with that. But people just seem nastier to each other. They are really in the I need to be right mode, and will sever friendships because of the need to be right. And I think that the great learning lesson in all of this, hopefully, is that people begin to realize that none of us are right. That it simply is a state of being that we're going through right now. And I know that sounds really cavalier and like dismissive, and I don't mean it to be, but we are where we are right now.
And I'm with you there too.
Yeah. And so when we look at we are where we are, how do we bring the people who are reaching out, how do we bring them, how would you be bringing them into, let me go back a minute. Would you be using any of your cards? Would you be using your files right now to help them understand why they're believing what they're believing or why they're fearing what they're fearing right now.
Oh, absolutely. I am. Every day I'm using my work to help people. But for the people who don't come to me and ask for help through my work, I'm reminding them how important it is, no matter how ugly or nasty somebody might seem to be on the outside, they're still just a being of love on the inside.
Yeah.
And if you can just kind of like open that kimono and try to see their inner light rather than the darkness, and just be gentle with them and with ourselves, which doesn't mean become a pushover or compromise your beliefs in any way, shape, or form, but it just means stay in that place of love and don't engage with it.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
I think it really is important, especially as things get a little heated, is to remember it's about the soul, not necessarily the human existence, participation, whatever. I mean, yes, we're learning, but if you can look at their soul and understand that they came from the same place at the same time that you did, and they're going through their learning lessons in what they need to. With God or source or whatever you want to call it, that they're on their path and they have a belief system according to what they need to learn as a soul. Makes it a lot easier for me. I don't know about other people.
Yeah, for sure. And the other piece of this too is, Patty, I really, really feel like we have passed the worst of this now. And so do you want to just throw away everything, for a moment of being right, when you could just hang on and let it go for a little bit longer until it sorts itself out, and it will.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that was amazing to me is Easter Eve is always my prophetic dreaming. And all night long. And one of the things that was coming through so clearly was just this massive light hitting the earth, and just a cleansing. The earth was so blue, just so blue. And then we had our tornado and, really bad storms come through Easter night. But yesterday morning when I got up, the sky was the bluest I've ever seen it. And that made me feel like, we may have some glitches down the road, obviously. But I think 2020, despite how it has started, I think 2020 is going to be an amazing year.
Yes, ma'am.
And just really is going to be amazing. And I think that things will be happening on the feel good, joyous side that we just can't see right now. But I sure feel it, feel the edges of it out there. So in our last minute or so, what do you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, first, I want to thank them for listening to us today and hearing my ramblings. But I have a gift for them. And if they do go to my website, JeanAdrienne.com, and if they sign up for my newsletter, I would love to gift your listeners with a free subscription to the online version of my InnerSpeak cards so that they can do clearings on themselves in the privacy of their home, on their computer or their phone. And it's a everlasting gift. Even if they don't like the newsletter, they can opt out and still keep using those cards. So
how beautiful. Thank you so much. That's
and I think that will help.
Yep.
It won't hurt for sure. And they can't screw it up. But my only admonition is only do it once a day for yourself, because even though it seems like an online game, it's actually some pretty powerful work, and you need to let your body process and catch up.
I'm going to go there as soon as we end this call. Folks, it's Patty Conklin with my guest, Jean Adrienne, JeanAdrienne.com. We'll see you soon.